When Black Panther hit theaters in 2018, the world fell in love with the Dora Milaje, Wakanda's elite, all-female warriors who protected the king with unmatched skill and loyalty. Audiences thought it was pure fantasy, a beautiful fiction, an inspiring but imaginary vision of African power. They were wrong. Because 150 years ago, in a kingdom that really existed, there was an army exactly like this. Thousands of women, trained to kill, loyal to death, so fierce that European soldiers wrote home saying they'd rather face any male army on earth than fight these women again. They were called the Mino, our mothers. History calls them the Dahomey Amazons. And this is the story Hollywood never fully told you. On the west coast of Africa, and what is now the Republic of Benin, there once existed a kingdom that terrified its neighbors and baffled European colonizers, the Kingdom of Dahomey. From the early 1600s until 1904, Dahomey was one of the most powerful states in Africa. It was wealthy from trade, it was organized, it was militaristic. But what made Dahomey truly unique, what made European generals write about it with a mixture of fear and disbelief, was its army, or more specifically, one regiment within that army, an all-female fighting force of 4,000 to 6,000 women. They served for over 300 years. They took vows of celibacy. They trained from childhood, and they were considered the most elite soldiers in the entire kingdom, more disciplined, more feared, and more deadly than their male counterparts. The Europeans who fought them called them Amazons after the warrior women of Greek mythology. But unlike the Greek Amazons, these women weren't myth. They were documented, photographed, interviewed. They were real, and their story deserves to be told. How does an all-female army come to exist in the 17th century? The origins are debated by historians, but the most commonly accepted story goes like this. In the early 1600s, the Kingdom of Dahomey was just emerging. It was surrounded by larger, more powerful neighbors. It needed soldiers desperately. Some historians believe the first female warriors were elephant hunters, women recruited for their skill with weapons and their bravery in facing massive, dangerous prey. Others say they began as bodyguards, women chosen to protect the king because in Dahomeyan culture, only women could be in the king's private quarters at night. What started as palace guards evolved into something far more significant. By the reign of King Gezo in the 1800s, the female warriors had become a formal military institution. King Gezo didn't just tolerate female soldiers, he celebrated them. He expanded their numbers, he gave them the best weapons, he declared them superior to male soldiers. A French naval officer named Jean Bayol visited Dahomey in the 1880s. He recorded that when he asked King Gezo about his female warriors, the king replied, "My soldiers are not women, they are men whose bodies happen to be female." In Dahomeyan society, these warriors transcended gender. They were considered neither fully male nor fully female. They were something else entirely. They were Mino, meaning our mothers. But don't let that gentle name fool you. These mothers were trained killers. They carried razor-sharp machetes that could decapitate a man in a single swing. They wielded clubs with embedded shark teeth. Later, they used European rifles with deadly accuracy. And they had a tradition that terrified their enemies. After battle, the Amazons returned to the king with evidence of their kills. That evidence? The heads of their enemies. Becoming a Dahomey Amazon was not a choice made lightly. For many, it wasn't a choice at all. Girls were recruited as young as 8 years old. Some were given to the king by their families, sometimes as tribute, sometimes as punishment for misbehavior.
Some were selected by the king's scouts for their physical strength or fierce temperament. Others chose this life to escape arranged marriages or abusive situations. But once you entered training, there was no going back. The training was brutal by any standard, ancient or modern. Recruits had to survive in the wilderness for extended periods with minimal supplies. They learned to ignore pain. According to European observers, one training exercise involved crawling through walls of thorns without showing any sign of discomfort. A British observer in the 1860s, Richard Burton, wrote, "They are savage as wounded gorillas, desperate as a cornered rat, and utterly without fear of death." But the most disturbing part of their training was the initiation. To officially become a Mino warrior, a recruit had to prove she could kill without hesitation. According to multiple historical accounts, recruits were given a prisoner, often a captured enemy soldier, and ordered to execute him. No mercy, no hesitation. If she succeeded, she was a warrior. If she failed, she was rejected. This wasn't cruelty for its own sake, it was preparation, because on the battlefield, hesitation meant death, and the Mino did not hesitate. Once fully initiated, the warriors took sacred vows. Celibacy was mandatory. They were considered married to the king, not romantically, but symbolically. They belonged to Dahomey now, not to any individual man. If a civilian man touched an Amazon, even accidentally, he could be executed. The warriors lived in the royal palace. They had their own compounds, their own hierarchy, their own culture. They drank alcohol that was forbidden to other women. They could own property. They had slaves of their own. In a society where women typically had limited rights, the Amazons had power, respect, and purpose. One Amazon warrior was interviewed by a European journalist in the late 1800s. When asked why she chose this life, she said, "We are no longer women, we are men. We fight, we kill, we die for our king. This is our purpose." Training means nothing without results. So how did the Dahomey Amazons actually perform in battle? By every account, even from their enemies, they were extraordinary. Throughout the 18th and 19th centuries, the Kingdom of Dahomey waged constant wars against neighboring kingdoms, the Oyo Empire, the Mahi, the Egba, and others. The Amazons were not ceremonial troops. They weren't just bodyguards. They were frontline fighters, and they were often sent into the most dangerous situations. In 1551, Dahomey attacked the city of Abeokuta. The battle was fierce. The walls were heavily defended. European observers documented that the Amazons led the assault. They climbed the walls under fire. They fought hand to hand in the streets. And when the battle turned against them, they refused to retreat until directly ordered. They lost that battle, but they didn't lose their reputation. One British observer wrote, "The women fought with a valor and determination that put the men to shame." In another battle, a French Marine named Byrne, who fought in this war, wrote his diary, "We saw them coming. We assumed they were men. Then we saw their faces. They were women, and they kept coming. They did not stop. They did not fear our bullets. We were the ones who were afraid." This was a common reaction from European soldiers. They had never encountered anything like this. In European warfare of the era, women were nurses, camp followers, occasionally spies. They were never frontline infantry. The Dahomey Amazons shattered every assumption. And the Amazons had a psychological weapon beyond their fighting skill, the trophy system. After battle, Amazons collected the heads of fallen enemies. These weren't just war trophies, they were proof of valor. A warrior's status was directly tied to how many enemies she had killed. The more heads, the higher her rank. In annual ceremonies, the king would publicly honor the most successful warriors. Their kills would be announced before the entire kingdom. In Dahomeyan culture, this wasn't barbaric, it was glorious. And for enemies, it was terrifying. Imagine knowing that if you fell in battle, your head would be taken as a trophy, paraded before a cheering crowd. Many enemies fled rather than face the Amazons. For nearly 300 years, the Kingdom of Dahomey and its Amazons remained undefeated by European power. That changed in 1890. France wanted control of West Africa. Dahomey stood in their way. What followed were the Franco-Dahomeyan Wars, two brutal conflicts that would ultimately destroy the kingdom. The French came with overwhelming force, modern rifles, artillery, trained European soldiers, and African colonial troops. The Kingdom of Dahomey, under King Behanzin, had much less, but they had the Amazons. In the First Franco-Dahomeyan War of 1890, French forces expected an easy victory. They were wrong. The Amazons fought with such ferocity that the French were forced to negotiate. A treaty was signed, but tensions remained. 2 years later, in 1892, war resumed. This time, France sent a massive army, over 2,000 European soldiers, plus thousands of African auxiliaries. Against them stood approximately 4,000 Dahomeyan soldiers, including an estimated 1,500 Amazons. The battles that followed became legendary. At the Battle of Cotonou, Amazon warriors charged directly into French artillery fire. Wave after wave fell, but they kept coming. French soldiers later wrote that they had never experienced anything like it. One French officer, Colonel Dodds, documented the war in detail. He wrote, "The Amazons fight with extraordinary courage. They advance even when their comrades fall around them. They show no fear of death whatsoever. Each one fights as if she alone can win the war." At the Battle of Agojie, French forces faced a mixed force of male soldiers and Amazons. The French had artillery, machine guns, modern rifles.
The Dahomeyans had older weapons and their courage. The battle lasted hours. The Dahomeyans charged repeatedly into certain death. By the end, the field was covered with bodies, many of them female warriors who had fought to their last breath. A French Marine named Béarn, who fought in this war, wrote in his diary, "These women are incredible. They fight better than most male soldiers I've encountered. When they charge, they scream war cries that freeze your blood. I have never been more terrified in my life." But courage alone couldn't overcome industrial military technology. By November 1892, the French had captured the capital city of Abomey. King Behanzin ordered the city burned rather than let it fall to the French intact. Then he fled into exile. The Kingdom of Dahomey was conquered, and the Amazons, most died fighting. Others were captured. Some disappeared into the population, hiding their warrior past. The French officially disbanded what remained of the Amazons. The institution that had existed for 3 centuries was formally ended. But the story doesn't quite end there. In 1979, a woman named Nawi died in the village of Kinta, Benin. She was estimated to be over 100 years old. Before her death, she was interviewed by a Beninese historian. She claimed to be the last surviving Dahomey Amazon. She recalled fighting against the French as a teenager. She remembered her fellow warriors. She remembered the battles. When asked about her life as an Amazon, she said, "We were the teeth of the king. We bit when he commanded." Nawi's death in 1979 marked the end of living memory. But the legacy of the Dahomey Amazons was just beginning its modern resurrection. In 2018, Marvel's Black Panther introduced the world to the Dora Milaje. These fierce, bald-headed female warriors who protected King T'Challa captured the imagination of millions. Director Ryan Coogler confirmed what many suspected. The Dora Milaje were directly inspired by the Dahomey Amazons. The similarities are unmistakable. All-female military unit? Check. Loyal to the king above all else? Check. Considered more elite than male soldiers? Check. Shaved or close-cropped hair as a symbol of their status? Check. Taking vows that separated them from ordinary society? Check. Wakanda's greatest warriors were based on a real African kingdom's greatest warriors.
warriors. Fiction had finally caught up with history. In 2022, the story came even more into focus. The Woman King, starring Viola Davis, told the story of the Agojie, another name for the Dahomey Amazons. The film wasn't perfectly accurate. Filmmakers took liberties with history, as they always do, but it introduced millions more people to a history they never knew existed. Viola Davis trained for months to portray General Naniska. In interviews, she spoke about the emotional weight of bringing these women to life. She said these women existed, they were real, and for 300 years, the world tried to forget them. We're not going to let that happen anymore. Today, in the Republic of Benin, the Amazons are national heroes. Streets are named after them. Monuments honor them. Young girls learn about them in school. What was once a forgotten chapter of history is now a source of national pride. And globally, the Dahomey Amazons have become a symbol of African civilization's complexity and power, a symbol of female strength in military history, a symbol of a truth that colonizers tried to bury, that Africa had kingdoms, armies, and warrior traditions that matched or exceeded anything in Europe. The Dahomey Amazons existed for approximately 300 years. Thousands of women passed through their ranks. They fought dozens of battles. They shaped the history of West Africa. They terrified European colonial powers. And for most of the 20th century, almost no one in the Western world knew they existed. They weren't in our history books. They weren't in our movies. They weren't part of the story we told ourselves about Africa. But history has a way of resurfacing. When you watch Black Panther and see the Dora Milaje standing proud and fierce, remember that image isn't fantasy. When you see the Woman King and watch Viola Davis lead her warriors into battle, remember, women really did this. For 300 years, in a kingdom called Dahomey, an army of women proved that courage, discipline, and military excellence have no gender. They weren't myths, they weren't legends, they were real. And now, finally, the world is starting to remember. The French thought they destroyed the Dahomey Amazons in 1992. They were wrong. You can't destroy a legacy. You can only try to hide it, and that never works forever. If this story amazed you, you need to see what else history has hidden. We're uncovering the forgotten women who shaped the world, warriors, queens, inventors, and leaders that your textbooks ignored. Subscribe to Woman Before Civilization and hit that notification bell. Next week, the Viking Shield Maidens, DNA proof that half of Viking warriors were women. Click the video on your screen to watch it now. And remember, Wakanda may be fiction, but the women who inspired it, they were very, very real.